if you watch my previous video when I was selling my Royal Enfield, now you can see what was underneath the cover. It is a 2024 Kawasaki Z900RS SE, I guess. And it's the yellow ball. I think that's what they call it, the yellow ball. And just picked that up just the other day. You have to stay tuned for that. We'll have our first ride out and we'll get some pictures and sounds from that. I'm really impressed with the bike. And I'll explain to some of you folks why I bought this bike instead of maybe a vintage two-stroke. You hear me, Roy? All right, bye. Meerkat. Hi everybody, Flat Cap Cafe Racer. I'm out on my first ride on my new bike, as you saw from the introduction. We call it the Z900RS SE. You may know it better as a Z900RS SE. Hopefully we'll get some good pictures of it today. I'm not really going to go over the specs or anything like that with the bike. They've been out for 4 or 5 years, so pretty much everybody knows something about these bikes. And I'm not going to tell you a whole lot of new stuff. I probably will as we go along. But this is my first ride out, so I'm just going to kind of enjoy the ride. I haven't messed with any of the settings or anything like that. I've kept them the same, and I'm going to let the suspension and everything break in before I make any mods to the suspension. Some of you may be wondering why I didn't. Yeah, I got a lot of good suggestions on the video where I was talking about what kind of bikes, you know, I might get, and a lot of you guys had some good suggestions, and I really looked hard at the vintage two-strokes, and I may end up with a vintage two-stroke one of these days, but there's a couple reasons I'm not going to get a vintage. I didn't get a vintage two-stroke this time. I was out changing the oil and oil filters in 3 of the bikes this last month, and I tell you what, I could barely get up and down and move around. I'd lay down, take me 5 minutes to lay down and do something, and as soon as I get laid down, I find out I need another tool, and it took me 10 minutes to get back up and move around, and it just wore me out. And I kind of decided that I didn't want to get a bike that I'm going to have to work on a lot. You know, oil changes and filters are one thing, but having to, you know, take the heads off, or piston rings, or time it, or points, I'm just not in the mood for that right now. And there's some really good vintage bikes out there. But the problem is, with all the vintage bikes, like even Roy's RD350, which is a 350, you're not going to get that for less than probably $12,000. And the vintage bikes, like you get a vintage Z1, it's going to run you up to, a good one's going to run you up to $24,000 right now, and the prices are continuing to go up. So even with getting there's no guarantees on when you get a vintage bike. I mean, cosmetically it may look beautiful, but unless you're buying a bike from Roy, you don't know really what it's like. You know, you could get it home and it might not even start. You know, especially at the auctions, you don't know unless you know the people who are doing it. And I don't know that many people that are doing the bikes. I'd like to have a vintage two-stroke. Yamaha 350 would have been good. A 500 Suzuki would have been good. 350, 400, 500, 750 Kawasaki would have been good. Z1 would have been good. A CB 750 or CB 500 would have been good. But it's just hard to know, and you're going to pay as much money for those bikes and not knowing as you are something like this. Now, I'd be hard pressed to find somebody that didn't think the Z900 was a nice looking bike. Now this one might be a little bit more blingy than some of them. It may not be to your taste, but I've been looking at these bikes, whoa, since I guess I first saw them in end of 2017. I wanted and I also wanted a bike that would kind of fit in, slot in between my Tiger, which is I use for touring mostly, riding long distance, and my Thruxton R, which I use for a couple hour trips. I wanted something that would do a little bit more in a couple hours, but not be so big that it was like the Tiger 900. And if I would have got a two-stroke, like an RD 350 or something like that, that'd have really been more of a in between the Royal Enfield and the Thruxton. It would have been, you know, you're not going to probably use those for daily riders. And if you do, you better be good at maintenance, and you better be good at finding parts, because 50-year-old parts aren't easy to find anymore. Although there's a lot of people making a lot of good parts, they're just not that easy to find. And I just don't want to spend my time tinkering with them or digging and looking for parts, or afraid that if I ride it a little bit then I'm going to wear out something that I can't get a replacement part for immediately. So that all went into my thinking here. You know, more the retro style, and
ooh, that looks good. Take a look at that.
Well, I really do appreciate you joining me if you're still here. You have to join me and Mr. Bill on our next ride, and maybe we'll let Mr. Bill talk if he brings his camera. It's Flat Cap Cafe Racer out for today. Bye. Join me and my friends at Flat Cap Cafe Racer for riding and racing. Please subscribe.